Welcome to Stephen King Saturday, The Boogeyman, 2023. Not the 1982 Dollar Baby one that we just discussed in preparation for this about 2 months ago. In that, I had said that this movie was more than likely going to open up with a cold open dealing with the Lester Billings baby deaths. And lo and behold, I was correct. So this movie starts off with a baby in a crib. It gets killed off screen, which is a really fun way to start your movie.
Yep.
I would have preferred it to be on screen.
Mm-hmm. Ripped apart.
But then I saw the picture, and, anytime I see a picture with actors I know in it, you're seeing them.
Yes.
Right, so I saw the guy, and I was like, oh, that must be Lester Billings. And this guy, I've seen fucking so many movies. Mm-hmm. He always plays like a mentally disturbed guy.
Yeah, he gets typecast a lot as that.
He plays it well, so
yes.
I get it. But he's just kind of got that face of someone who is mentally unstable.
Mm.
And he plays it super well, whether it's in The Dark Knight or... There's just so many movies that this guy pops up in over the years that I'm like, oh, he's a crazy person again.
Yeah.
Right? He's in Prisoners. He plays the dude with the snakes, right? Mm-hmm. That he chases down and finds.
He just has like a really interesting face and demeanor about him. So
yeah. So anyway, you get that cold opening. It's, I don't know. There's not really anything to it. It's just like, the baby in a circle. Then, you kind of see the monster, see the baby, monster's a little closer, then it pans over, blood on the thing, and then the boogeyman.
I liked the opening, though. I thought that, like, the
because
kid
because it's a baby getting killed, I think you have this, like, notion, or at least this error to the movie now, that maybe the bets are off, that maybe kids could get killed, right? Because one of the big problems you deal with in horror movies is that when you have a kid in the movie, the kid usually has plot armor. And us horror fans get annoyed because it's like, I don't want somebody in the film who can't die if it's a horror movie. Unless it's like a haunted house movie where usually most people don't die. And it usually deals with a family. You get pretty used to that kind of stuff. But when it's a monster movie, when it's a slasher movie, when it's those kinds of movies, it's like, I don't want a fucking kid in here. Okay? They have to be able to they have to be able to get dead.
Get died, yeah.
Or hurt. And this opening suggests maybe it's possible, right? It sets that doubt in your mind of like, oh shit, they're going hard, they're killing kids, so maybe this other kid can die. And it's like, no.
I didn't feel like it set that up personally. Just
no?
I didn't think it was going to be that kind of movie at all.
Murdered a
but
baby
I liked
in the opening. How could it
opening,
not be that?
because I thought that I liked the monster kind of getting closer and seeing it in the shadows. I thought that the little girl sounded super scared when she was like, Daddy. And I also like that we get that the monster can imitate voices.
Yeah.
Because that's something I didn't mention in our spoiler-free discussion.
No, because we shouldn't.
Right, I guess not. But that's one of my favorite things about this monster, because I think that anything that can imitate or like mimic humans, especially people is really scary. And I feel like, honestly, like as far as a boogeyman goes, I think this is a good representation of what like a lot of kids thought of when they were younger.
Sure.
But I don't know. I think that the opening is effective, but it doesn't make me think that it's going to be like a hardcore movie. If we had seen something on screen, maybe I would have
in a
thought that.
movie.
Yeah, but I just knew, like, it's just the opening to show that it like goes after kids. Like that's it. The vulnerable children.
Anytime you start a movie, I mean, you have to remember, like, especially in PG-13 movies. PG-13 movies don't fucking kill infants in their crib.
No.
Right?
And
don't. Blood splatter from
them.
Like, as I said before, to a lot of people, that's hardcore.
Sure.
It's the insinuation of something happening. It's like the other movie we watched, Influencer, which we just watched, and we're going to review when we're done with this. There's a kill that happens that they cut away from, and I was like, a lot of people would think that kill happened on screen because they're going to close their eyes. As soon as they think it's about to happen, they close their eyes and they fill in the blank, right? And that's what a lot of people do. So a lot of casuals or people who don't like gore or the squeamish or whatever, a lot of the times they'll close their eyes and fill in the blank. They'll make the noise, so they don't really know what happened, but they see it in their head. So when they see a baby about to be attacked, and then they look away and they're like, "Oh my god!" and then they hear the noise and the blood splatter.
Yeah.
To them, the baby probably just got ripped apart on screen because that's how they see it in their head. And even if it didn't, they still saw it because they used their imagination to see it. So they're putting them in this mindset of like, wow, this movie's killing babies. Right? So to me, you can't kill a baby in an opening and not have it suggest that the movie's a little more hardcore than you thought it was going to be if you came in to see some like PG-13 horror movie. So that's all my point is. Anyway, moving on from that. So we get the opening title. Then we move to Sophie Thatcher's character here. And as I told Kaylee here, it was like 2 seconds of her, not even, maybe a half a second. It was crazy how fast I was like, her mom's dead.
Yeah.
Like, she was just in a closet with a bunch of clothes that were clearly like older for an older person than she is, for someone in their like 40s. And like, I saw it. And instantly I was like, her mom's dead. And then she was like going around and groveling, grieving. And I was like, oh, yeah, I was right. That was quick. Wow, I picked up on that super fast. That was crazy. And then I don't know, like the whole subplot of the mom being dead and gone. And like, she just didn't want to let it go. She was holding on to the past, right? And then the dad was, even though he's a therapist, the irony is he gets everyone to talk about their problems, but he himself won't talk about it. And then the other daughter, she legit didn't seem like her mom was dead at all.
No, she didn't have like any kind of reaction to her death, and it was definitely weird because I feel like she would be obviously equally affected by it, but she just kind of seemed like she was afraid of the dark. She was afraid of the monster in the closet. And I thought that was definitely one of the weaker spots of the film because I really liked the relationship between the sisters, but I felt like the, Sophie Thatcher's character, the older sister, was carrying most of like the guilt, or not the guilt, sorry, the grief.
Yeah.
And it wasn't being like shared between them.
No.
Which I would have liked to see, and that's kind of what I was like hinting at when we were doing our spoiler-free review about how it didn't really go deeper into like the stages, like not even the stages of grief, but just deeper into grief itself. It was very like baseline, bare minimum of what people would feel.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we don't explore any deeper like mental anguish or like certain things that people would do after the loss of a loved one that is unique and interesting and like maybe morally ambiguous and right, like we all grieve in different ways, but like as we had said in our spoiler free discussion, the film is extremely surface level with its exploration of loss.
Yes.
It's just like, I don't want to throw her clothes away, and I'm going to wear them. And the dad's like, I don't want to talk about it. And the little daughter, Sawyer, is. I told Kayla when we left this, I was like, honestly, if you played the movie exactly the same way, with Sawyer, the character Sawyer, played by Vivian Blair from Obi-Wan Kenobi, the way she acts in this movie, from the moment we meet her, she's scared of what's in the closet. She's scared of... literally the whole film is just her scared of the boogeyman.
Yeah. Like,
if you played this movie out and the mom was in the house and she was just another parent alongside of the dad, I would never, like, as I said, if you played all of her scenes exactly the same as how they are in the movie, I would never know she was dead.
Yeah. Well,
she
that's
never
what I
has
mean.
any grief. She never seems to care. She doesn't ever really bring her up.
There's a few lines
She says something about the mom once or something.
I don't know that she says anything, but
I swear
it's
she
like,
says like one line about the mom at some point.
Maybe, but I know that there's like they talk about how like we're not going to lose dad too, and like that's brought up a couple times. But I feel like we didn't explore the little girl. Like I feel like we didn't explore her experience in grief at all, and I think that's it's a shame because movies like this could do really cool things with the concept of like the boogeyman, which is a practically universal childhood fear.
Yeah.
So many people have, but then combining that with the loss of a parent.
Yeah.
And kind of going into all those like complex emotions. I think that there was a really cool opportunity to do something unique. And especially given, Dash Cam, the last film, which we were talking about in the spoiler-free discussion, it could have been like a really wild movie. In a good way, though. Not like, Dash Cam was very interesting, but had an awful character. But
for us.
But it was really memorable and very unique, and like it's not something that I'm gonna forget. But this movie is definitely gonna be forgettable.
Yeah, this is a surprisingly restrained film for a director that made such a bold, wild movie in his last film. But that's the price you pay a lot of the times when you work with studios. That being said, Parker Finn, who had never made a movie before, he just made a short, was brought in to adapt his short into a feature, which ended up becoming Smile. That movie explores deep themes of mental anguish and trauma, and like that really goes deep into stuff. And there's a lot of really interesting themes being explored there with family and inner strife, and like there's so much I could talk about when it comes to Smile. Plus, Smile's scares are super effective and sometimes very unpredictable. This film has none of those things to offer like Smile does. I hate to compare this too much to Smile, but it did remind me of it a bit, but just a much more generic version.
Yes.
So, but yeah, okay, so moving on. So, the dad's the therapist, the mom's dead, he's seeing clients, and Lester walks in after the kids go to school, and he's telling him about the boogeyman, right? And he has, of course, it's just, the film really just relies on tropes that we've seen so many times. I mean, the guy bringing in the notebook and being like, this happened and no one believes me. Did you believe me? And then they're like, sure. And he like pulls out the notebook and he's like, this is what I've seen. And he shows him this like rough sketch of a monster. Dude, I'm not exaggerating. I could name probably 50 movies off the top of my head who do this scene, right? And there's just nothing really interesting about it to me. It's like, it's just exposition. It's just there to be like, I'm here to pass the curse on to you, which is exactly what happens. The wife's like, oh, he must have passed it on to you. I don't know why it keeps going back and forth between the wife's house, the living wife, and the Harper family. Like, I don't really understand that. So it's like the Billings family passed on the curse, but he's still frequenting their house. So does he can he be in multiple places at once?
That's what I thought, because she says something, Billings' wife says like he's been here, or it's been here forever or something, or like it's talking about how old it is, like longer than whatever.
Or it's been here forever.
Yeah, and right. So I just kind of like assumed that this was kind of like an interdimensional type of entity that wasn't really constrained to one space. Like whatever, jumping back between the two places, fine, but I feel like it could also have been like in any other like closet, like across the like world.
Sure, but he has to pass it on. Right?
I honestly don't.
Doesn't it shoot like a flare in the sky when your family has grief? Like Lester has to specifically go to someone's house to pass it on, and the only way that it's going to be passed on is if that family is dealing with grief. Because she says something along the lines of like, it goes for like vulnerable
Yeah.
weakness or whatever, very like hereditary style, where Payman takes the most traumatized person, the weakest one of the family in the moment, right?
Sure. It doesn't make sense to me that it would need to be passed on. I honestly just like threw all of that away in my head when I was watching it, because
That is what happens, though.
it is what happens, but it just doesn't make sense, because like you said, if it's attracted to like vulnerability and trauma, I don't understand why it would need another human. Like there's no him passing it on. Like if there was some like dynamic where it's like if you pass it on, then you're free from it, like it, it follows or something, then that would make sense. But the fact that there's nothing, like it's just he brings it over and it's there,
Yeah.
I don't understand. And I kind of just like in my head was like, I feel like it found them anyway, and the only reason that like the passing on thing is just like he drew attention to the fact that this was happening, because the little girl, like Sawyer, was seeing stuff before he came, I thought.
No.
It happened after he came?
Correct. So she was thinking, she was just scared. But, unless I'm completely misremembering, but she specifically says to Rita that she didn't see anything until Lester had
But that's
come.
not true, because when she wakes up in the morning that day when they're going to school, she's looking at her closet, looking at the darkness, and she kicks her little moonlight into it.
So I think
that's before that. He's even
what I
there.
think is happening there in those moments is that this is in her head, right? This is a representation of what kids think they see. And then this guy brings the real boogeyman to the house. So I think we're seeing something through an unreliable narrator in the little girl, Sawyer. And she is seeing things because she's scared. Then Lester comes to the house and he brings a real entity into the house. And now what she's seeing is actually real. So at first, nothing happens to her because she's not seeing anything real. Then Lester brings something, and then something really starts happening. Then it's running across her floor. It's moving objects, right? It's screwing up her little rug she has on the floor. Obviously, it's like picking her up, throwing her against the TV.
Right.
That, I mean, obviously is like big time.
Yeah.
But like before that, nothing happens. And I think we're just seeing what she thinks she's seeing. But then he brings it, and there's something actually there for once. So I don't know. It is convenient, of course, that this girl is terrified of the boogeyman in her closet, and then a guy brings the boogeyman to her house.
That's why I don't feel like it's the right. That's what I mean. Like I just think it.
Kids are scared of the dark.
They are,
right?
and the
so
boogeyman and all that is like a very,
sell.
very like.
But she never says it's the
generalized.
boogeyman.
No, she doesn't.
Right.
I just think.
The only person who says that is Rita.
Because what I wanted the film to be was like the boogeyman as a representation of like grief and like how we project like our emotions onto our loved ones that are gone, and like the anger and resentment for them leaving, and like all that stuff, right? And so that's what I was sort of thinking she was going through.
Yeah.
And that the boogeyman was that. And I don't know, I do not like the passing on part of this film, because I think that it doesn't make sense, and I think it's an unnecessary element. I don't think you need to even have it in there. I think that you could just have Billings show up and draw attention to it, and you can still have his wife be a part of it. She does, like, the line of her passing it on, like, I just think it doesn't need to even be in the film. Like, I think still have the same thing.
I think it would have been cooler had Lester came to the house and he was just like, I needed to get away from my house. There's too many memories there, and this thing won't stop, leave us alone, and I can't get away from it. And it's like I just needed a break. I just needed to go somewhere where I could be sane and talk to somebody who would believe me, and I just need something. And then, like, the little girl, was there, and she, like, came in and was like, Daddy, I'm seeing things. And he's like, you gotta go. I'm in a session or whatever. And then she leaves, and he's like, what did she see? And then he's like, it's here too.
Yeah.
Like no, I can't get away from this thing. Like
Sure,
it's
yeah.
already in some other person's house, and it would have been kind of cool to see, I don't know, it being in two places at once. It's like or like 20 different closets.
Yeah, like
across
it's
the
an
world.
inescapable.
You see all these different kids,
right,
with the same monster in their closet.
Yeah.
That would have been a cooler ending.
Yes.
That the boogeyman is like in all our closets.
Like you can't kill the boogeyman.
Right. So anyway, as far as like Will the father goes, he is fucking useless in this movie.
He is. I mean, his character is meant to be that, obviously.
Yeah, he's
like,
the
it's not...
parent. It's like,
yes,
this is the kid's movie.
Right.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, and it's hurtful, right? Like when his daughter's trying to open up to him.
Yeah.
And he's just like, I talked to your other therapist. Like, I don't want to talk to you about
Right.
it. All that's sad. And, I liked his performance. Like,
Sure.
the family dynamic works well. Like, I believed all their relationships.
Yeah.
But yeah, he just doesn't have a lot. I don't really have anything to say about his character. Because he's, like, not in the film very much. He's the setup for Billings.
Yeah, I
That's
kept
how Billings
wondering where he
comes.
was.
Yeah, and then he is like, involved at the end a bit, but not much. Just kind of.
I kept thinking, like, why is Dad not with them right now?
Yeah.
What the fuck are they doing? What is he doing? And why is Sadie there and with Sawyer and Dad's not around? Like, what the hell?
He's working. He's whatever. He's avoiding being with his family because it hurts. But yeah, that's
But he works in the house.
I know.
He works.
So he's out getting groceries.
He
or
works
whatever.
at night. In the middle of the night, he's going to
gone.
Walmart 24 hours.
No, he's sleeping at night.
Yeah, and he's not hearing his kids scream.
No.
It's ridiculous.
Earplugs.
Yeah, drugs. You think Sawyer is named after the Sawyer family from Texas Chainsaw?
No.
I was thinking that the whole time.
Were you?
Sawyer? Every time I hear Sawyer, I'm going to think of that.
It's funny. I always think of the Sawyer from Lost.
Oh, no. That's fine. Okay. So, the bully at the school. I mean,
my God.
Is she like a stock generic bully who says and acts exactly how every bully in every movie acts? Yes. I still wanted to just destroy her face.
Yeah, it's so awful. I mean, I have a hard time believing that there's people in the world that would actually act that way towards somebody who lost like a parent or 100% anything.
There are people like that.
Which, yeah, I know that's the truth, but it baffles me because it's so, like, even if you didn't like somebody, like, to be so bitchy about it and awful, and,
it's like, are you human?
Like, the actress that plays her, like, obviously she does a great job because, yeah, I hated her guts, and...
you know who I hated a little bit more, though, is her fucking best friend. Who kept hanging out with those girls after what she did.
Yeah, I mean, that's
and then
just
left with them after what she did. Like, what?
I know.
That's your best friend?
It's like the just teen girl drama where, I don't know, there's no loyalty there, but it's bizarre for sure. It's like she was gone for a month after her mom died, and then all of a sudden her best friend has like these new friends and is like trying to stay friends with her, but also like not. Could
you imagine if you brought your friend, your best friend, to your new group of friends, and your best friend's parents just died, her mom just died or whatever, and your new friend was immediately shitty to her and was talking trash about her mom.
No.
And you were like still hanging out with them the next time they run into you.
No.
And then invite them over to your house. Like, dude, that's going to be a good idea. Like, dude?
That was all. Yeah, definitely when she's like, I thought she was going over to their house. That's what I thought initially. And then when it was like, oh, they're coming to her place, I was like, why would she ever do that? Like, I could see her inviting her best friend over, but these other girls that it's like, it doesn't even seem like she knows them.
No.
Like, it was, I did not believe that would be the case. And it was really, really uncomfortable for sure with the bullying because it just is always horrible to see, even in a fictional setting.
All three of those girls were awful.
Horrible.
Like, there wasn't anyone that was even slightly likable. And I get it. Like, they're the cool girls. And she's hanging out with them because they're cool. This is how it's always portrayed in film.
Yeah, but the
cool kids are always shitty to everybody. and people just want to be around them because they're like the alphas.
Dude, no.
Of course, this does not appeal to me in the slightest. I would never hang out with people like this. I've never found anything cool about people like this in my entire life. Never.
No, I don't know who would. I really don't.
Well, in movies, a lot of people.
Being mean-spirited is not cool.
No.
Like, it just isn't.
No, but kids are awful.
Yes.
Teenagers.
That is true.
Kids, they're awful to people. They
really are.
It's unbelievable. I promise you, I was never this way.
I wasn't either. That's why I'm like, I have such a hard time believing that there's people like this.
And I wasn't raised by someone who like taught me better.
I know.
That's the thing too. I should have been shitty.
It's personalities. Like, certain personalities just act that way.
Assholes.
But, yeah, assholes.
Type A. A for asshole.
Type asshole.
I don't know what type I am, but...
not the asshole type.
Not the asshole type. I mean, I can be an asshole, but I'm not an asshole. There's a difference. There's a huge difference. There's the difference between, like, acting like a bitch and just straight up being one.
Yeah.
And these girls are bitches.
Yeah.
So, anyway, okay. So, yeah, you got all that stuff. As far as, like... her grief and like wanting to keep all the stuff and wearing the dress and getting the like, so she was okay, correct me if I'm wrong here, but my assumption here was she is holding on to this lunch because it was the last lunch her mom ever made her.
She hadn't been to
so
school
it was like
in a month.
rotting in her
she
day.
opened her,
but she wanted to keep it.
She was gonna, I mean, I don't know if she was going to keep the food, but I would assume she'd keep the bag or something because it had like her mom's
right, because she just hasn't been there.
She hasn't been
like
there.
She hasn't been there.
But she was holding it in her hand when she gets pushed, obviously. So
yeah,
I assumed she was going to keep the bag with her mom's handwriting on it.
Yeah,
because like, of course you would.
Yeah. So she must have been at school
when she got
the message before lunch.
Yes.
So her mom died in the morning.
I mean, or later, but she got called out before lunch.
Yeah. So anyway, and then all the stuff with the friend. I already kind of said my piece on that. She's trying to be all cool and like, I've seen you pee 1,000 times, and let's hold hands over the stall, and we're besties. No, you're fucking not. You're garbage. You're a garbage friend. Okay, that bitch can freaking jump right off a cliff. Probably one of my least favorite aspects of the film is I was really hoping, just praying, that these girls were going to get killed by the boogeyman. Yeah, like, if you wanted to up the body count of the movie and really get some cool scares and kills in the movie, this was the perfect opportunity, because unfortunately what ends up happening is she looks crazy, they leave, and then they go home and everything's fine for them. They go to school the next day, trash her all over school.
Yeah.
And this girl's dealing with the worst shit ever that no one's ever going to believe. Yes. So when she tries to come back to school or whatever after this movie, her life is over because everyone at that school now thinks she's a total fucking lunatic.
Yeah. I hate that that's the case.
I want them
I wanted them to get killed as well.
Yeah. I want them dead. They should have died in this movie. So it's a shame. I hate when bullies get away in movies like this. It's like bullies. See, in movies like this, in horror movies in general, bullies are there to add to the body count and to be also to have some kind of vicarious moment where you're like, oh man, I need this. I need this person to go down. To be like
a morality tale for bullies. To be like, if you're a bully, the boogeyman's going to come and get you.
But there's something wonderful about seeing somebody get their comeuppance. Because as much as people like to talk about, karma and this and that, in my opinion, karma's bullshit. And there's tons of fucking people who do horrible things all the time. And all that ever happens to them is they get better stuff, more money, and nothing ever comes of it. And in fiction, I like them to get their comeuppance because it feels good to see the asshole get what's coming to them.
Yeah.
And so in this, we don't get that. So I was really bummed out about that. It is what it is. As far as the therapy scene goes, the red light, fine.
Yeah, it's shown in the trailer.
It showed in the trailer.
So
I tried to not watch the trailer, right? I was like kind of looking away because I figured like all the good stuff would be in the trailer. So even with that, even with ignoring most of the trailer, I still felt this to be very predictable. And even I didn't see the scares, I just knew they were coming. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah. It was, I don't know. I mean, I think that scene, it's kind of, it's an homage in some ways to the Stephen King short story, because the therapist in the
very end,
is
yes,
the boogeyman, which they kind of also do a nod to in the end of this as well.
Yeah.
Because the boogeyman uses the therapist's voice to call her back in.
Yeah.
I liked that. Fine. You know, I'm glad that they tried to incorporate it, because the short story is like, I mean, it's so nothing.
Yeah.
Like, nothing happens in it. It's just a man that's, like, killing all his family, basically. But we don't even see it.
And
so
he's a total piece of shit.
Yeah, and he's a total piece of shit. So, I do like that they incorporated those elements into this.
Yeah. So, anyway, the therapist scene happens. It's the flashing light and the thing's getting closer. You've seen it a trillion times. But then nothing ends up happening. She invites the friends over. She smokes the pot. She pulls. So we have the tooth gag where she ties the string to the tooth. The boogeyman closes the door on her. She screams out, "Are you said 3?" And then she coughs the tooth up later. That was like, that to me right there is the coolest and most inventive, most memorable thing when it comes to like the scares and the unique setup of like horror, where the tooth is pulled, then it pulls it through the door, and then it just somehow comes out of her throat.
Yeah.
That stuff to me is scary. That's like, oh, that's cool. That's interesting. That's unique. I've seen it, but not a ton. Just like I should say I've seen it quite a bit where somebody has something in their body that they pull out, whether it's through their eye or through their nose or through their mouth. But the fact that it's her sister's tooth and it's still tied to the string, and it's like, how the hell did it get in there?
Yeah.
And why is it now in there while she's smoking pot? I don't feel like that follows the rules of this movie otherwise. Mm-hmm. This thing doesn't have the ability to do that any other place like that, where it's be able to put something into her body.
Yeah, I don't.
But maybe she maybe put it in her mouth while she was sleeping, and now she's just coughing it up. It doesn't make any sense.
She has the dream before, right? Or does that happen right after? I think it's before.
She has the dream where it like jumps through the door,
and it jumps through the door,
and then puts
its hand in her mouth,
and she kind of walks. She wakes up and she's coughing.
coughing.
Okay, so you think
happens.
that is it putting it down her throat? That would make sense. But so she's smoking, which makes her cough, which then loosens it. And but there's a string hanging in her throat this whole time, and she doesn't feel it. And it's in her esophagus, because there's no way she coughed up a whole string in one cough and then was able to grab it.
Yeah,
it just felt like it put it in her in that moment. But you're right, it's the dream. It comes and puts it in her while she's sleeping. I guess that sounds wrong. He comes and puts it in her while she's sleeping. That's called rape. But yeah, I got nothing on that. I guess the dream sequence makes the most sense. So good call on that. That's the only because he doesn't have any of those abilities otherwise, and I don't understand his powers exactly. Like, he can bleed, so like you got the Arnold moment, right? If he bleeds, we can kill it. Which he almost verbatim says in this. They actually wrote around that, because she was like, if he can bleed, that means that we can end him. She was like, I can't say the Predator line exactly, so I got to change it a little bit. But anyways.
Yeah, it's like, it's got a corporeal form that can be hurt, but it can also like imitate people's voices. I did like that it didn't...
Annihilation.
Yes, it was like not a perfect imitation. And it doesn't seem to be able to like shapeshift or anything, which I thought it was going to start doing. But it doesn't. It's just the voice.
The sound design's cool that, right? I like the voice. I like when she's walking through the school with her headphones on, and it's like,
People are saying like, sorry about your mom.
Sorry, Sadie.
And, yeah.
Sorry, Sadie was like really quiet as she's like got the music cranked up. I like that stuff. That was cool. But like as far as the rules of the Boogeyman go, I don't really understand. Like it's afraid of the light. It doesn't like the light because it can hurt it. But like it's in the light at sometimes, and it doesn't seem to be affected by it at all. So like I don't really understand the rules of the thing, because when it's attacking her and it's on top of her and we see it in like full light and we see its face multiple times towards the end and it's in light, it doesn't seem to be like or like hurting from the light. And then when it gets on top of her and it's like exposing itself and there's like a being within the being and it opens itself up and it like sucks the life out of her like a Dementor from Harry Potter. Which I thought it was blood at first, but I guess it was like a life force. Which doesn't really line up with how he kills the baby in the oven. He just kills that thing and splatters its blood everywhere. So why is it sucking the life out of someone, holding it down? And even earlier in the movie, he says he likes to like basically screw with you and scare you to death.
Yes.
So it's like one baby gets killed by like a slash, then another one, you know, she is getting the life force sucked out of her, and then he's saying that it scares you to death, and that's how like it gets its thing. But then he says it sucked the life right out of my kids. Yeah. Like, what is it? Like, there's so many confusing things, like contrasting elements there. Yeah. And then as far as like it's like fear of the light, I don't know. I don't really see how that works, because there's never really a time where the light's on it and it's like hurting. So I don't really know what it just wants to avoid it because it doesn't want to be seen, but it constantly keeps showing itself to them. It's like I don't really understand the rules or like what its prerogative is.
I don't understand them either. I mean, maybe like it's trying to scare you, so sometimes staying out of the light is more effective in scaring you, and then sometimes like showing itself would be scary.
But if it can just jump on top of you and suck the life out of you, why does it even bother? Does it? You have to be scared for that to happen? Because when they did the whole scared thing, right? Like, because okay, in other movies that we've seen like this, where it's like it feeds on your fear or whatever, right? Like the tale of the dangerous soup from fucking Are You Afraid of the Dark, for instance. Like, it specifically is set up in that way. And when they say that, like the fear, man, you just can't be afraid, or like in Evil Dead, the video game, when your fear level gets too high, you can become possessed. Like it's your fear level. So like I thought for sure when they mentioned that, she was going to like stand up to it and be like, I'm not afraid of you anymore. And it was going to be like her, you know, screaming at like death because of what happened to her mom. And it's like, I don't fear you anymore. Or like, I'm over you. And she's going to burn her stuff, right? The symbolic letting go of mom when all the stuff burns in the basement. But it's just like, I thought they were going to have that moment. Like they were going to stand up to it and it was going to like cower back into the corner or something. And it's fine. They didn't do that because that's kind of cheesy. I don't care. But like, it feeds off your fear, it's killing you, it's going to scare you to death. They never really play into that. Like, I don't know. Like, it's all over the place when it comes to the monster.
Yeah, it is. I agree. I don't feel like that's, like, addressed very well. It's the same thing as, like, it being passed on. Like, it's just kind of, like, a rule that's stated, and there's not a lot of, like, guidelines for it.
No. Mm-hmm. Sure. I mean... But this has always been a thing, right? Like, it's your mythos are only as good as your exposition, I suppose. Like, I guess you can, I don't know. It happens, even in great movies, right? It's like the Gremlins, right? Can't feed them after midnight, but they never say at what time you can feed them again. Yeah. Is it 5 a.m? Is it sunup? Is it 6 a.m? Noon? What? 12 to what? Mm-hmm. Right? There's always going to be those things that you have to kind of just fill in the blanks for. But in this one, there felt like a lot of like contradicting things happening. Where I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, I agree.
I thought that, huh?
I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
But the design of the creature in the end, when it like holds her down and then the like hand comes out and then like the little face is inside its face and all, that was awesome.
Yeah, I thought
all that stuff was cool. Really great. And I loved that. And if we could take that and put it in a much scarier, bolder film, and it would like make it R-rated, fucking Rob Savage making a PG-13 movie is hilariously stupid to me. Like, why are you going to take a guy that makes R-rated films like he makes and then throw him a PG-13 generic film. That just seems mean.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked the design of the creature, like I said. I thought that was really cool. And I even liked it before, too, when we were just seeing, like, the eyes in the darkness and, like, quick glimpses of it. I thought all that was effective and a good representation of the boogeyman.
Yeah. As far as, like, all the foreshadowing and all of the telegraphing of the scares, all the scares, it doesn't matter which one. The therapist scare, the Rita, see, I told you we could kill it, and you're like, okay, she's gonna get hit now.
Yeah.
Boom. Right? Or any of them. You can name any one of them. And when we were sitting there, I was like, 3, 2, 1, now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
3,
they're
2,
very,
1, now.
very,
There
very
it is.
predictable.
And it's just like every single one of them. So there was nothing unique about the scares in the slightest. So that was always a big bummer to me.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout, it just kept going like, really? We're just going to telegraph them this much? And then all the foreshadowing of, like, you know, the paint thinner or whatever the hell. What's the other word for that?
I don't know.
It doesn't matter. But, you know, she gets that stuff on the ground. I'm like, okay. And then when the chick is like, fires the oldest light man has, I was like, okay, shit, they're going to burn it. It's just like that kind of stuff. It's just so heavy-handed.
Yeah.
It's so hand-holdy.
Yes.
And you're just like...
Yeah, I mean, like,
Bro.
this is why it's, like, for, like, a mass audience, like
Yes.
a general audience,
Yes.
because most horror fans don't want to be, like,
spoon-fed.
spoon-fed.
Yeah.
And this film just does that so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I don't know. What else?
I don't know. I mean, the ending, I mean, we've said already, it was pretty predictable.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say. I think we've kind of covered a lot of it, honestly.
Yeah. Even though those are her mom's clothes, I don't think they flatter her very much.
No.
When she was
But
wearing
that's how
them, I was like...
She's just wearing them because she misses her, and because they smell like her, which is really the
Oh,
sad thing,
yeah.
because then she has to wash it,
Yeah.
which totally, like, takes away the smell.
Yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
sure that was, like, her favorite dress of hers, right?
Yes, I mean, that's what the one that she's, like, painted in.
Right.
So, yeah.
And the boogeyman goes and tears that up. Or is it Lester that cuts that thing? I would assume it's gotta be. Because
No.
it's, like, cut after Lester's in there. She comes in
No,
and
it's not
finds
that
it
one.
torn.
It's not that one.
She finds a painting torn.
Oh, the painting. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the dress. Yes, the
Yeah.
painting is all torn up. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like,
I
what are you
don't know.
talking
I
about?
don't know who does that. I guess it has to be Lester.
It could be, but I don't
But
see
it might
why
be the
Lester would cut it up.
boogeyman. Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense. So his first kid dies of SIDS, which actually kind of makes sense because that's what brings the grief into the family,
Right.
which then brings the boogeyman, which means that it wasn't passed on. It was because their kid died of SIDS.
Yeah.
So this whole, like, passing it on thing is bullshit.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean she's right? She says that, but that doesn't mean she knows what she's talking about. So it's possible the kid was seeing it before, and she just thinks maybe it was passed on, but she's not an expert. So I'm defending the film now and filling in a blank or, doing away with something that we found silly. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know what more to talk about. I'm trying to think of, like, any of the other scenes that really stuck out. But as I said, it's a very forgettable movie. I feel like I'm already forgetting half the movie.
Yeah.
And I just don't care. Which is a shame. So, yeah, this would be like, on like Letterboxd, it would be like say a 3.5 out of 5. 3.5, somewhere in that.
Is probably accurate.
Which is such a shame. This could have easily been in a 4.5 range.
Sure.
You have
Totally.
Soviet Thatcher. You've got little Leo Organa.
Yes.
The dad's good. Like, you've got good actors. You got a Stephen King story.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just such a safe, generic movie. And
It is.
I'm never going to be a fan of that shit.
No.
So that's that. So there you go. Stephen King Saturday. Sorry about last week. We needed a week off.
Yeah.
But this week we should be on top of things again. So there you go. If you saw it, I hope you did. But maybe you're just watching because you saw our spoiler free and we're like, And now you got to hear about the movie.
Yep.
There's nothing remarkable about it or memorable.
Nope.
Yeah, we would have mentioned if it was. So that's that, guys. Join us next week. I have no idea what we're going to do, but I'm glad we had this to do.
Me too.
Until then, bye.
Bye.